up, man?
Not feeling too well, huh?
I think I've been training a little bit too hard.
Oh, okay, so this isn't coronavirus.
Oh, no. I could deep breathe pretty good, and it's just I think I've been overtraining.
Yeah.
And my body's just giving me like biofeedback signals, and my sleep last night wasn't that good either. And
yeah,
there's a lot of variables. It could be, okay, I was training too hard. It could have been I was training in the sun. It could have been like I wasn't hydrated enough, multiple
a lot
things.
of factors. Hold on, I'm going to put my ring light on me because I notice I'm a little dark over here. Hold on just a second. Mm-hmm.
Man, I need to get a ring light.
Actually, I don't think that's going to do much. So that's all right, though.
You still look good. It's all good. You
Appreciate
shaved your
it.
beard. You shaved your beard.
Yeah, man. I had to the other day. I needed a. You get in those funks, sometimes where you're just like, I need to change something, and to me, the beard was the thing that I needed to change. I think my wife was being very patient with me with the beard.
Really?
And I think that when she saw it, when I shaved it off, I think she was pretty happy to see that. So,
dude, I can't grow my shit out past like 5 days. It gets way too itchy.
Yeah, there's an awkward time where you just have to kind of put up with it. And there was even times like after about 2 weeks, like it's still kind of splotchy for me, like it doesn't grow in everywhere. But then once you just be patient with it and you get through it, then it starts growing in a little bit thicker, and it's a whole deal. But I'm about the only male in my family that can grow a beard anyways, so I should be thankful. But all right, so guys, if you guys are listening to this, you've obviously heard us ranting for a little bit. Not ranting, just discussing things. But welcome back. This is going to be episode 5 of my Iron Sharpens Iron series. And basically, for anybody that's new to this series is about interviewing people in the fitness industry, competitors, coaches, educators, who I feel bring a very good message and promote bodybuilding and physique sports in general. At a very high level. And this is a series that I kind of want to get a little bit deeper than just the surface, like what's your diet, what's your training like. I want to really kind of get into the mentality of an athlete, of a coach, of an educator, and try to bring some real value and help people really understand what bodybuilding is really about, right? Because we live in a society today where there's a lot of Instagram bodybuilders. And we've talked before, and I'm gonna put all your information below, but we did a podcast on yours about a month ago, maybe.
I believe it was about a month ago. We just talked about your background,
right?
Talked about body dysmorphia, and we talked about sustainability for fat loss. I think it's a great episode. I may be a little biased, but I definitely recommend you guys check it out.
Well, I'm biased as well. I definitely suggest you guys do it, and there'll be a link below. But you are someone that and I know you contacted me the other day. We're gonna touch on the COVID-19 ordeal and some stuff to help some of these listeners out at home that aren't able to train quite as regularly as they used to, and helping with eating and everything. But I also want to kind of get into a little bit of your background, because you had a pretty amazing transformation shift yourself. And I think what I really want to touch on with that is kind of your whole mentality during the whole thing, and what that has done to help lead you into a very successful coaching business that you've created, competing, and just all the good that you're doing in the industry. But we'll get into that in a minute. I think that the big thing that you and I wanted to talk about here to begin with is just this whole ordeal that's going on with coronavirus, COVID-19, whatever you want to call it. I'm starting to notice a lot of effects from my clients not being able to go to the gym regularly. Their gyms are closing down. I'm very fortunate. My gym is still open here, and talking with the owners and trainers there's no real talk about them closing down at all. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed. But how have you been affected? How have your clients been affected? And how have you been going about dealing with that?
So first and foremost, just preface this. I'm not an infectious disease expert. I think everyone should stay up to date with the CDC and WHO in regards to updates about the situation. But I do also understand there are a lot of people who are impacted, whether that be, with their work or whether that be going to the gym. Specifically for myself, I've been doing this long enough to where I understand how to make adjustments on the fly with my training, with my nutrition. But like, I'm in my off season, so I don't really have to do anything crazy with my nutrition. But in regards to my training, like when you look at your training, like obviously there's specific movement patterns that you should be performing, right? Whether that be like a horizontal press, horizontal pull, vertical press, vertical pull, hip hinge, squat variation. So like if you understand that, you'll be able to find exercises that you're able to substitute. And the other thing too is like you're limited in terms of like, I don't want to say how much of an effective workout you could get in, but like when you don't have access to the gym, you don't have access to machines or a lot of equipment, there's only so much you could do. But with that being said, that doesn't mean you can't get a sufficient training stimulus in to maintain your muscle mass, right?
Right. That's what I've been trying to tell people is, listen, this is not a time where anything is going to be optimal, right? But you can't let that get in the way of doing something. And I gave an example to many clients of mine so far that pretty much until, I'm still not fully recovered, but I was out for about 4 straight months with doing no upper body training, like none. And I don't feel when I came back that I lost very much. Now, there's a few reasons for that. Number one is I kept my calories up and I was still training lower body. Number two is I was still doing rehab exercises. So I still was providing a little bit of a stimulus with bands and things like that. And number three, I guess it goes along with the calories, but I was keeping my protein high. And number four is I had already built that base of muscle. And I think that people, and I don't want to call it irrational, because honestly, if I didn't know and wasn't as educated, I probably would think the same thing, that you will lose muscle real quick. But people confuse going flat with actually losing muscle tissue. And those are not the same things. That's going flat is just a carbohydrate depletion. Losing actual muscle tissue and water, obviously, losing muscle tissue, that's actually very difficult to do. And it can be done, but I personally think that
you have to try to lose muscle.
You have to actively try. And if you are still doing something at home, if you're doing push-ups, if you're doing pull-ups, you're giving your muscles a reason to stick around. You're giving that muscle tissue a reason to stick around. And just like you mentioned before, you can provide a stimulus. I think this is a really good time for people that have maybe been training really hard. You and I were just talking about it. You feel a little overtrained right now. This could be a really good time to give your body a little bit of a break. So it's all about how you're phrasing it, how you're thinking about it. And that kind of gets into a bit of what this series is all about, is the mindset of a bodybuilder. You need to start thinking about not just this short term. You need to be thinking about how today is going to set up tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to set up the next day, and everything for your long-term goals. Because in the grand scheme of things, listen, this is going to be a burden on a lot of us for a little while. This is not going to be the norm for the rest of our lives. This is a small period of time. And I think that people are just starting to, first of all, understand that how much of the gym is actually a big part of their life. But I think this is a really good opportunity for people to start changing their mindset and realizing, okay, how do I adjust? I've been putting in the work. I've been, learning my body. I've been learning my nutrition. I've been learning my training. Now, how can I adjust? And I think this is a really good time for people to practice some of these skills.
Great points, man. So just to give a little bit more context, this is my overreaching week.
Okay.
And I was training with like logs and stuff, and I can't really quantify how much like a log weighs. So the most important thing is like, as long as you're training to a close proximity to failure, you're going to be delivering that training stimulus to maintain your muscle mass. And honestly, it takes a prolonged period of inactivity or intentional detraining to actually lose noticeable amounts of muscle mass. And any muscle or strength that's lost, like, it could be regained relatively quickly compared to how long it took to initially build it. And like the training stimulus needed to just maintain muscle mass is significantly less than what's needed to build more, right? I also do feel like this could be super beneficial in regards to people taking a step back and understanding that, sure, this isn't important, but like, again, it's not everything. Like, there's a far more serious issues that are happening in the world right now. And it's also
all about
super
perspective.
Important. Absolutely. It's also super important to understand that us training and being able to chase these body composition related goals is a privilege, right? Being meticulous about our nutrition, being meticulous about our training, it's a privilege. Like, people in third world countries, they would think we're crazy because, like, like if you go to Africa, like starving kids or like people who have diseases, they don't even care about like half the things we think about, first world problems. But and like in regards to nutrition during this period of time, or like fat loss, like if you're in a fat loss phase or you're in a contest prep, I personally think you should keep the goal obviously still keep up with CDC, WHO, and keep up with your specific federation, right? So whether that be WNBF or PCA or whatever the case may be, I've seen federations put out updates in regards to delays on shows or whether they're canceling that out. And I also think you should stay in close communication with your coach if you're someone who's contest prepping, right? And the more communication, the better. But I do think you should keep the goal, like, as long as you maintain your training effort across like the 6 main movement patterns that we briefly touched on at the beginning of this, and taking those sets to a close proximity to failure, you'll be providing your body with a sufficient training stimulus. And I also think it could be beneficial to bring your calories up to maintenance. But that all depends. Like, you should be talking to your coach. But the reason why I say that is if you're in a fat loss phase, it most likely won't be the most productive thing to do to try and continue to progress with that fat loss phase if what you're doing isn't really optimized in a way to where it previously was.
Yeah, and it's really fun. It's ironic you just brought that up because I'm doing today I'm doing a Q&A on my Instagram, and somebody asked a similar question, like, should I continue with my fat loss or what should I do? And I kind of said the same thing. Like, part of going through a fat loss phase is the notion, that idea that you're still going to be training pretty intensely to retain as much lean body mass as possible. In this time, if you're not still holding out hopes for a show, right? If you're not contest prep, if you're just fat loss, I would look at slowing the deficit, slowing the aggressiveness, or doing what you said, going to maintenance, because you're going to be able to pick that fat loss back up. But if you continue to keep dieting hard and not providing your body with enough stimulus for your muscles, for your lean body mass to stick around, your metabolism is going to tank a lot quicker, and you're just not going to be happy with the outcome. You're not going to be happy with the results. So yeah, that's a really good point you bring up. And I do want to touch on the nutrition part of this whole thing in a second. But as far as if you have any clients that are asking you right now, what kind of things are you telling them that they can do at home in order to, still carry out some of these movement patterns that we talked about, some of the basic movement patterns? For me personally, I'm sticking to the tried and true basics, the push-ups, pull-ups, body weight squats, lunges, planks. I think that takes care of a good portion of the body.
Right.
But I do see people getting very creative with, doing like RDLs with their couch. Have you seen that?
I haven't seen that.
They're picking it up from the bottom and then they're just going down and doing an RDL.
That's super creative.
It's obviously not going to be the most effective, but it's something, right?
Sure.
I've seen some people get pretty creative. So have you had any clients yet reach out to you and be like, Coach, I'm freaking out here. What do I do? And how have you been handling that?
Absolutely. So for most people, what you said, I feel like will be sufficient, right? Personally, for my clients, I've made adjustments to their programming. But the thing is I also feel like this is going to be dependent on what you have available to you, right? So
Absolutely.
If you have resistance bands, if you have like a set of dumbbells, if you have a kettlebell, whatever the case may be, then you could have a little bit more, expansiveness, I guess, in regards to exercises you're able to do. But caveat, like you could still put a sack of potatoes in your backpack and a bag of rice and load it up, and you can still do curls and whatever the case may be. You could still put that backpack on and do squats or do RDLs with it. So there's a big difference between what's optimal and what's practical. And I do feel like, especially like during this period of time, it's important to make that distinction. Sure, you may not be progressing to or at the extent in which you were had you just kept going to the gym, but you could still maintain your progress, right? And the more advanced of a trainee you are, the less confident you are with home workouts and specific movement patterns, the more you should consider maybe potentially like decreasing your calories to maintenance if, say, you were in a surplus,
right,
until you resume like your regular resistance training, right?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I've actually told someone that because they don't really like steady state cardio, and obviously, you outside the gym, you really got biking, you got walking, you've got things like that, but they really like HIIT. So I told them go to like Home Depot or something. Get 2 5-gallon buckets, right? Fill it up with water halfway, or fill it up with sand or something, and use that as resistance, and do like farmer's carries up and down your driveway. Like, this is a time that can actually be a lot of fun in a way for people. Like, fall in love again with working out. I think that for a lot of us, you and I and most of our crowd that we know, we love the rigidity of the gym. We love that. But for a lot of people, they find the gym really boring, right? They don't want to go. They know they need to, but they kind of fall out of love with working out sometimes. And I think this is a really interesting time for a lot of people to get creative and learn that movement is fun, right? You can do things. The gym doesn't have to be this boring place that you go to and sweat and feel like crap when you leave. Have some fun with this. And I think this is a really good opportunity for people to, once again, change their perspective on things and learn their body a little bit more. And I see a lot of people have issues because they don't really know how to control their own body weight in movements, right? There's a lot of people that have never practiced squatting without a bar that need to learn how to squat without a bar, right? Because you got to learn that movement pattern. So there's been a few clients that I've had that I'm like, listen, you've been having these issues with these certain movement patterns. This is a good time to just go back and break things down from the beginning, so that when you do go back to the gym, you're even more efficient and you're actually going to start seeing that progress that you're wanting to make. So yeah, those are really great points you brought up and everything. As far as nutrition goes, I actually ran into this issue yesterday. I went to go get eggs and chicken, and everything is sold out, right?
It's kind of
like
ridiculous.
It is, man. So, I'm having people email me like, my staples are like my protein staples are all sold out. Everything is like, what do I do? So are you having people message you with the same issue? Is it kind of the same out there on the West Coast as it is here in Florida? And if so, what are you kind of telling people to do to make their best out of it?
Absolutely. So I just want to go back to what you previously said, just because I feel like it was a good point. Most times I feel like it's hard for us to put ourselves in the position of some of our clients, or like, because we're so much more advanced that like it's hard for us to think back to how we previously used to think, right?
Yeah.
So I definitely feel like just using this period of time, especially if you're not confident with a lot of the movement patterns that you have programmed for you, using this time to improve your execution and improve your technique could be something that makes such a substantial difference in your training. And once you get back into the gym, you'll have much more of an effective and efficient session, just because you took the time to master these little pieces to the puzzle, right? Also, most of us are going to be at home. Well, like, we're quarantined right now. And I feel like it's super important to be cognizant of our activity levels. And you don't have to like go on 3, 6 mile, 8 mile runs, but being aware of your activity levels compared to where they used to be before the quarantine happened, and just staying active is something that makes a big difference too. Now, going into nutrition, I had the same problem as you, man. I literally went to 6 grocery stores just to find some damn eggs. It's pretty ridiculous. So I feel like
I don't even care about the toilet paper shortage. I want my damn eggs.
Yeah, for sure. So I feel like because we're talking about this topic, it's important for us to give our perspectives on the situation. I feel like more people need to be proactive over being reactive. And you got to remember that, like, the people who are more prone to getting this virus, people who are immunocompromised, like, they are the people that actually need these eggs and chicken, and like the older population, right?
Oh, that's a really good point.
And so I just feel like a lot of people need to be more conscious and
respectful too. I mean, I think a lot of it's come down to respect, man. Like, there's honestly, and I think it's Dr. Fauci or whoever's leading the coronavirus task force for the White House stuff. I think they even came out and said, like, guys, you don't need to be getting a month's worth of supplies. Like, get a week or two's worth of supplies and let everybody like, this is a health crisis, yes, but one that will be solved soon. This isn't doomsday. This isn't the end of the world. And I think what we just mentioned about, I think, is a major issue with a lot of things in America and the world is people don't respect other people. That's where a lot of conflicts come in. And the egg situation, we're sitting here laughing like we're bodybuilders. We love our eggs, right? But you're right. That's a point that I didn't think about, is that the people that are actually probably going to get sick from this and have negative adverse effects from it are the ones that need these very nutrient dense foods, these vitamin packed, mineral packed foods. And there's people that
shouldn't be eating our eggs, but there's a big difference between getting 1 carton and like 6, right?
Absolutely. And I'm just sitting here laughing in my head. I'm trying to think in my head, like, how many people went and stocked up on eggs and all this stuff that don't usually eat them in the first place, just because they're like, oh, this is an easy source. So, but I'm telling people to, just get creative. Obviously, you want to try to make sure you're hitting your protein mark. That's very, very important.
Protein powder is like probably will be for a majority of us, it'll be our best friend during this period of time.
100%. Canned and pouched tuna, things like that.
Yes.
Very, very easy. Are you going to maybe be able to go get your ground sirloin as often? No, you're probably not during this time, right? Are chicken breasts going to be harder to come by? Yeah, they are. But that doesn't mean that it has to be impossible. This is actually a really good time for a lot of people who are not really, how am I trying to say this? not really proficient in flexible dieting, this is a really good time for them to try to learn how to be a little bit more flexible with their diet and
Absolutely.
understand that a couple weeks here and stuff is not going to throw you off as long as you're conscious about sticking to your macros, sticking to your numbers and everything. But it is a difficult thing. It is something that, as coaches, we have to be there and have good advice for our clients moving forward. Because a lot of them don't understand still that, a chicken breast and turkey can be equal if you account for the cat, right? Like they're like,
Absolutely.
if it's not chicken breast and it's not broccoli, I can't eat it.
And they freak out. It's like
they freak out
mentality.
Yeah. So I think the, covering those aspects of training and nutrition, I think really ease a lot of people's minds during this. And the other thing is don't let this stress you too much. Stress is inevitable. This is a tough time. There's a lot of change going on. But this change is not going to be forever. So that's a very important thing to remember. And the more you stress about it, we know the effects of stress on your physique and just your mental health in general.
The worst thing for our immune system is
stress. Yep.
There you go.
Stress and low protein.
And also the thing is, like, a lot of people are promoting immune boosting workouts or foods. And it's just important right now to like make the distinction that nothing in the body works in isolation, right?
Oh, that's so true. Good point.
It's multiple things. There's so many variables. It's so expansive. That's just the main thing you have to take into consideration. And if you weren't already in a position to where you are doing everything you possibly can to maximize your sleep, maximize your general health, like now would be the perfect opportunity to do that. And so like expanding a little bit off, we said protein powder, we said canned goods. You said canned goods,
tuna, chicken, tuna, things like that.
Dry carbohydrates or like canned carbohydrates, it'll be better for like storage long term. And I also think, so here's the thing, if you're going to the grocery store and you're buying like a bunch of processed foods and things that could potentially like have you like binge on the whole box.
Yeah.
It'd most likely be in your best interest to either be a little bit stronger up here mentally or don't even like get those things at all, right? Just stick to your normal staples, and you'll find that you'll stay on track long term. And when you do eat out, if you decide to eat out, I know like a good amount of restaurants are closed, but when and if you eat out, it's not an excuse to like be an asshole and go all out, and you know what I mean? But like, given you can if you want, I'm not telling you what to do, but it's probably not the best.
If you're listening to this, you're an adult most likely, so you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
A lot of restaurants around here are they are closed for in-house dining, but they're all still doing carry out and delivery. Actually, there's a lot of places that are doing delivery now that weren't doing delivery before, and waiving delivery fees and stuff. So I don't really know how the effect of Chinese takeout is gonna go during this time, but that's one of my favorite things is Chinese takeout. I love it. But there's still plenty of ways, guys. You don't need to. I think it just goes back to what we said at the beginning here. Don't let this idea of perfection ruin the process of just maintaining. I don't know if I said that right, but you get what I'm saying. Like, don't get stuck in this mindset that if it's not perfect, you're not going to do it, because that's the surefire way to totally ruin all progress during this quarantine or whatever you want to call this that we're going through. I actually saw something, and I put it in my story earlier. It said, you could be one of two people most likely coming out of this quarantine, one that either gained 25 pounds or one that either lost 25 pounds. It's all about how you're going to choose to think about this and what your actions are going to follow. And I think this is really good. I have a lot of clients, moms with kids, said, this is a great time for you to show your kids and get them interested in being physically active. Do stuff with them. If you have a little kid, pick them up and do front squats with them. You know, like have push-up contests.
If you have a kid, you could overhead press them. You could back squat them.
Yeah, man. I'm telling you, I think that's and I didn't even really think about that until we started talking here. But what's one of the major issues with society today? Obesity and kids sitting in front of computers and video games and all that stuff. This is a perfect time for you to get involved with your kids. If you're a parent that's listening to this, it doesn't even have to be a little kid. Maybe you have a teenage kid who is just spending so much time in front of a video game all the time. Get them active, right? Do stuff around the house. Show them that being physically active can be fun. And that will translate into them later on in life. But I mean, I think we've beaten the COVID-19 to death here, man. I just want to make sure that you guys are safe out there. Hopefully what we're talking about here gives you a few ideas. Obviously, we are not infectious disease specialists. We're not going to sit here and tell you need to do this, you need to go here, you need to stay home. That's all your choice. Listen to the CDC, listen to your local government, all that stuff. But our job, social distancing. Oh, speaking of that, I went to my gym. I go to Powerhouse here in Tampa, and every other treadmill has a sign on it that says "Do not use." That's their form of trying to keep social distancing, which is awesome. It's hilarious. But anyway, so what our job here is, and what we try to do as coaches is give you guys information, right? We're trying to give you guys the best possible information that we have available to us so that you can make your decisions, right? You guys are all adults. We're not the types of coaches, and most of the people that we know aren't the types of coaches that are going to hold your hand. We're going to give you information. We're going to help put you in a position to succeed. But you have to choose to succeed. And part of choosing to succeed during this time of this quarantine is getting your mind right and making sure that you are keeping up with your physical health, your mental health, all of that stuff. So hopefully what we talked about gave you guys some ideas. You could reach out to either one of us. All of our information will be in the description box below. But I do want to kind of turn the tables a little bit and kind of get into the real crux of what this series is about. And for just kind of a short background, and I'll let you go into it a little bit more. You were pretty overweight at one point. I want to say, 250, 260? 250. And you went through an amazing transformation. You mentally, physically, I'm sure emotionally and spiritually too, the whole package. But it really got you turned on to this lifestyle that you and I and our friends, our colleagues in the industry love, and that is bodybuilding. So go into a little bit of the background of your past, what helped you get to losing the weight, and then how that mind shift kind of got you into coaching and competing.
Sure. So, guys, like David said, I struggled with obesity when I was younger. I was 250 pounds, and
now diced.
now I'm my off season, but my contest prep I got
2019.
I'm excited for what's to come in the future, big goals. But so I was 250, and at the time, this was like 14, 15. My dad had actually walked out of my life, and so I took it on myself, and I'm like, oh, did he leave because of me, or whatever the case may be? And I just remember waking up one day, and I had sunburn, so I was looking at my sunburn, and I was just not happy with what I saw in the mirror. And I had this realization that, if I wanted to accomplish anything in life, it's all on me. Nobody's going to babysit me. Nobody's going to hold my hand. Sure, there may be people that help me along the way, but nobody's going to help me. It's a matter of being independent, right? So I guess I went into the gym. I got a membership in the gym, and that day literally changed my life. I had no idea what I was doing, okay?
So you say this was around 14 or 15?
Correct.
What year is this?
I would say like maybe 2013, 2014.
Okay. All right. So about 6 years ago?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I've been training for 6 years now consistently. That's crazy to think about. Can't wait to make it a decade.
Boom.
But
wait till those gains.
Yeah, right. I started going to the gym and I had no idea what I was doing, guys. So if you're someone who doesn't know what the hell you're doing, as long as you go in the gym and you go into the gym consistently and you start building these little habits, excuse me, that's going to pay off dividends in the long run when you start to become a little bit more strategic about your game plan, right? But yeah, my first coach was actually, I ended up losing 100 pounds. And my first coach was actually Jeff Alberts of
3DMJ.
And so after I lost 100 pounds, I started like resistance training more consistently. I started falling in love with the gym. And the gym over time became my escape, right?
Mm-hmm.
Became my escape from things that I can't control in my life. Like being younger, you don't really have control of a lot of the things that happen to you externally. So it was just, It was my sanctuary to go to push myself physically. And I had never been I had never been someone who enjoyed pushing myself physically, right? But like pushing past that barrier, it allowed me to understand the power that we all have within us in regards to what we could accomplish, right?
Would you say that uncomfortableness of you sitting at that 250 probably prevented you from actually pushing yourself? Like you could just kind of fell into that comfortable zone, because I hear that with some people that like,
Absolutely.
You get content with where you're at, and it takes something, and it's different for all of us. For you, it sounds like it was your dad leaving, but it's something different for all of us, that is going to spark that fire, and we never know when it's going to come. We never know what shape or what form it's going to come, but it's going to help all of us if we're just willing to listen to ourselves.
Great points, man. Yeah. I think it's different for all of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
For you, the thing that really woke you up, from what I remember, it was just seeing how you would exercise while you were in the hospital, right? And that was your form of, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for?
Well, that was still me controlling my situation, because I felt still out of control. I felt that like my situation was the Army took my control away from me. Now, I don't blame any of my stuff on the Army, but that's a simple fact, is that I went from having control to losing control. And that was one of the things. And for me, the control of taking my own nutrition and my training into my own hands just got a little obsessive. But you know what? You took control and actually did it the other way. Like you went from your unhealthy state and you made yourself healthy again. You took control of your life back.
Absolutely.
I was kind of controlling my life, but adding to the detriment that I was already in, if that makes sense.
So I think it's like a continuum, right?
Yeah.
There's too much control to where it could have like negative effects. And then there's a good amount of control where you understand like you have to be balanced with everything, and just manage things appropriately. But yeah, man. So I forgot where I was. But,
you had lost 100 pounds. You had started resistance training. You worked with Jeff.
Right. I fell in love with bodybuilding, natural bodybuilding, and from there, I just continued to grow over the years. I first started working in a commercial gym at 18, and did that for around 6 months before I went into nursing school. While I was in nursing school, I coached people for free online, right? That was why. That was to get experience. That was to understand how different protocols work with different types of clients, and understanding just like how much individualization there is in regards to programming in regards to nutrition, whatever the case may be. So as I gain more experience over the years, as I learn more about anatomy and physiology and XYZ through nursing, that allowed me to have a solid foundation in regards to anatomy and how the human body works and hormones and all this different stuff. Like, you could argue all that's, I think it's super important to understand if you're coaching someone, you're taking people's health in your hands. Like, if you're coaching someone, you're not only responsible for getting someone from point A to point B, but you're responsible for changing their physiology and their psychology too, right? And
I gotta stop you there for a second, because I think that people need to understand what you just said, and I think more so coaches need to understand what you just said. Responsible. You have a responsibility as a coach. If you're going to take on this client, they are not just money for you every month. They are not just numbers for you. You are a healthcare provider in a sense. And I don't think enough people, I was a combat medic in the Army. So nurse, it kind of falls along those same lines. And I think that's what makes some really good coaches, of people that were in the healthcare field in one way or another before, because you understand that when you are dealing with somebody's health, when you are dealing with their physique changing, whatever it is, that is a responsibility. Like, you have to take that seriously. And that's what frustrates me about a lot of, and this isn't anything, we're not going on a rant about bad coaches or anything, but I just think that clients in general that are seeking out coaches need to be aware that there's some coaches out there that don't feel a responsibility to you. And that's unfortunate. I know you, I know many of our other friends that are great coaches in the industry. I know how we think, and I know that each one of us takes a personal responsibility with each one of our clients. But unfortunately, there's just a lot of coaches out there that don't.
Yeah. So me, you, like the people we know, we're just as invested in our clients' success as much as they are. Right. But that's not the case for a lot of coaches in the industry. And unfortunately, given context is everything, right? But I've seen some pretty shitty protocols, starvation diets, excessive amounts of cardio. And like, guys, if you're listening to this and you have a coach that's raising any red flags and they're not explaining protocols, I mean, maybe you should look a little bit more into that. Maybe you should reach out to their clients, see if they have them on literally the same protocols, reach out to another knowledgeable coach and give them a little bit context in your situation, what they think and whatever. Well,
and you had a really good, and I don't know if you were even thinking about it at the time when you were working with Jeff, but you had a really good mentor to learn from, just as he was working with you. You saw what a good coach was. I don't know Jeff personally, but I respect him. I think he's a legend. I think he's but I also had that with Lane, and we have many people that we are friends with in this industry that I know personally. I still go to and get mentored by him because you always got to learn. But it's really important that you had him as your first coach.
Oh, because I can't tell you how fundamental that was, and it set me up for success. Working with him allowed me to develop a lot of my methodologies and a lot of my protocols, approach, whatever the case may be. And it really helped me. And I went to him. I wouldn't say at the time I really knew what he was about. Right. Now I know what he's really about and how valuable that initial experience was. Total side note, guys. Jeff was in contest prep last year. If you guys don't know Jeff Alberts, I recommend looking him up. And he went on a family vacation when he was literally 2 weeks out. And he got shit done with literally water jugs, doing inverted rows on a dining room table. So and he was in contest prep. He's a pro bodybuilder. He's been doing this for years. So I really don't want to hear anyone say, oh, I can't get a good training session in, or I can't make it happen because my gym is closed. That's a bunch of bullshit. And it is. Where there's a will, there's a way. If this is important to you, you'll prioritize it.
I'm glad you said that, because we try to keep it real on this channel, and people need to hear that shit. You can't sugarcoat it, right? You if you're not getting results, is it really your coach's issue or is it your issue?
Sure. So like this is the other thing. We could make our clients the best protocols and programming in the world, but it doesn't make a difference if they're not able to adhere to it and if they're not able to follow through. It doesn't make a difference. You could have the most optimal macro setup, most optimal training program. It doesn't make a difference if you can't follow through. And so going back to what we were saying, I started working with Jeff.
Right.
I moved out to California and I just dove into my passion. So like we could get super deep into this, but I don't want to go on a tangent. But like nursing school was something I wasn't particularly, or nursing as a profession wasn't something I was particularly passionate about. Mm-hmm. I was more so doing it for my mom to make her happy, so I was able to provide for her. But I eventually took the jump in regards to starting my own coaching business, which I'm creeping up on 3 years in being business.
That's awesome, man.
That blows my mind because like everything I have is like it's come from my brain and just putting it on paper and translating it into action. And so I started my coaching business. It wasn't easy for sure. So like I lived in my car for a year while I worked 2 jobs while I built my coaching business. So this is the other thing too, like excuses or like people not really understanding that you have to eat shit for a little in order to get that goal that you see up there, right?
Yeah. So let me ask you about this because this is what I want the people to know is what was your mindset during that time? Like, because a lot of people say they have goals, right? And they'll tell them to you until they're blue in the face. But then when it comes down to it, when shit hits the fan and stuff gets real, they don't really stick to it. Now not too many people are going to find themselves in a position where you were living in your car, working 2 jobs, trying to build up your business here. I'm sure it would be only natural that you probably wanted to quit at times. You're like, is this worth it? But what, and I think this is what really helps stand not just great business owners, great bodybuilders, and people in general out is what was that one thing or what was something that you were mentally focused on that kept driving you? Because, man, I if I had to venture to say 60%, 50% of the people probably would have dropped out, right? They would have quit. They would have taken the easy route. But what separated you? What made you want to keep going after your goal, having no guarantee that it was going to happen and not knowing when it was going to happen?
Great question. So I want to preface this by saying during that period of time, like I was still training consistently, guys. I was still on top of my nutrition. So like I said, like if something is a priority for you, you'll prioritize it. You're not going to say, oh, I don't have time, or, oh, I couldn't really be aware of my nutrition today. That's bullshit again. And I guess for me, and this might not be the case for most people, is just my willpower to make it happen, right? That's an attribute that I believe I have that most people may not have. So that's what I feel like allowed me to really push through that period of time. But also, like I said, I literally just mentioned this to you. I had a vision of everything I want and everything like I'm working towards, and just really being able to lean on that and believe in myself was something that helped me in accomplishing that. And
so what do you think about this? Because that confidence is something that stands up, that makes you stand out, that stands a lot of people out from others, right? I feel that confidence isn't something that you're born with. Confidence is something that you learn along the way. You learn by being willing to put yourself in a position to fail. If you are not willing to fail, you can't become confident. I don't believe. Now, not necessarily saying I'm right, but what's your take on it? Do you think that confidence is a born trait, or do you think it's something that happens during experience?
Experience, absolutely. But I've failed more times than I've succeeded, I'll tell you that. And
I hear you.
valuable lessons I've learned have come from failure. Like I could tell you all the times I won, all the times I got like accolades, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really learn much through that, but like through a lot of my mistakes, through a lot of my failures, that's not only allowed me to become a more confident person, but that's allowed me to be a better coach in the long run.
100%.
And the thing too is like at 250, like you think you're going to be a confident person? Like I was so self-conscious and people made fun of me. People made fun of me once I started for making my meals, weighing out my food. Like you're always going to have people that are going to talk about what you're doing. Right. But you have to have the confidence in yourself and believe in what you're doing to follow through. Right. And that's something I feel like a lot of people don't realize. It's all on you.
Yeah, if you choose this lifestyle, and I say this lifestyle as being a bodybuilder, natural, enhanced, whatever you want to do, whatever your passion is, your drive, you're going to have to understand that your lifestyle is not going to make sense to 99% of the people out there. And you have to be okay with that. I actually had a conversation. I actually just had Lauren Dannemiller on the episode before. I actually just released it today. So I know people aren't going to be listening to this.
Out. You guys
it was a really good conversation, but we talked about kind of, I didn't even realize it until we started getting into it, but it's like, you know, this is kind of our fitness industry, our fitness professionals and culture. It's really like 1% of the entire country. Like we think we're a big culture, but we're really not in the grand scheme of things. And then we started talking about how did you get attracted to this lifestyle and all this stuff? And I started thinking back, I'm like, well, you know, I was in the Army, like I was in the military. That's less than 1% of the population ever has served in the military, which is still kind of crazy to fathom and think. But there's something about my personality, I'm sure your personality, and people that get really engulfed in this culture that are okay with being in the minority. And you have to be okay with being in the minority and not feeling like you have to explain yourself to other people or feel like you owe other people an explanation for what you're doing. People in my family don't necessarily understand why I do the things I do, right? But you have to surround yourself with people that support you. So it sounds like you did that with Jeff. Did you have any other people? I mean, does your mom support you in what you were trying to do at the beginning?
Absolutely. At the beginning, yes, she did. My mom's probably my biggest supporter. I had Matt Ogus. For those of you who don't know Matt Ogus, I recommend looking him up. But he was probably right after Jeff. He believed in me more than I believed in myself at the time in regards to going all in on my coaching and what I'm doing. And I believe that initial experience, that friendship, is something that helped me in achieving my full potential or becoming my best self. Chris Barakat, I consider him as like one of my mentors. I've learned so much from him. And outside of him being super knowledgeable, I keep him as part of my close circle because of the type of human he is, right?
That's so important. So important. And I've gotten to know Chris pretty well over the last couple of years, and he's a good guy. You know, it's great him being here in the Tampa area and stuff. And actually, I'm getting him scheduled to be on here pretty soon himself. So that'll be another great conversation. But how did you connect with these people? Because I think it's really important for people, listeners that are starting at the beginning right now. They want to find these mentors. They want to find these people. I think it's important to hear how we got in touch with our mentors so that they can do the same thing. I know for me, I emailed Wayne. I then got to meet him, you know, through my professor, and things just kind of worked out through that. But how did you get in touch with Matt? How did you eventually get hooked up with Chris? And, you know, how did this whole mentorship, friendship take place?
So with Matt, I first met him at the gym.
Oh, okay.
And I simply just went up to him and I'm like, hey man, you know, you've made a pretty big impact on my journey and thank you for doing what you do. And we took some pictures and we had some good laughs, and that essentially created the foundation for our friendship. How I met Chris, I met Chris through a friend, and we actually first started talking about gut health. One of our first conversations, and that built the basis for our friendship. And he's a friend before he is a mentor to me, right?
Yep.
I guess it's just important to understand. So, like, if you're going or searching for these types of people or mentors, and like, okay, I want to climb the ladder, that's probably not the right intention. You should be not the right mindset you should have. More so, try to look for people who will not only support you, but help you in understanding why you do what you do, or better understand nutrition, or better understand training, or reach out to people and be like, hey, I'd really like to learn more about nutrition training. You have any resources I could learn from? Or maybe just start working with them as a coach, right? Me and Jeff, we're still close today, right? And that started off by me just like learning under him, right?
Right. Absolutely. I think that it's really important for people, if they're going to reach out to you, to me, to Chris, to Matt, to any of these people, right? I think it's really important to understand that you need to be genuine, right? You need to not have an alternative
motive.
Alternative motive. I've been having trouble talking lately, man. I don't know what's going on. I think it is. I think this is like my last Monster in my fridge, and I just don't think I'm going to buy any more. But anyways, so I think that you need to have that genuine, sincere want to learn, and expect nothing in return, right? Like,
absolutely.
And show your value too. Provide something to them, because there's nothing worse than someone who comes to you, who wants to be mentored, who wants to pick your brain, and then all of a sudden they ghost you and you never hear from them, and it's just a bad road to go down.
And take, and
they're leeches, and you have to have this genuine sense of wanting to learn and wanting to listen to the good and bad that they have to tell you. Like, if you're going to ask somebody to give them an honest opinion about, say, your physique or what you need to do, you need to be willing to listen to what they're going to say and not just go off on your own after that. But that's a whole other tangent. But so you are taking 2020 off, correct, from competing?
Yep. So here's the thing.
Looks like everybody is. So,
so like, me personally, my plans competitively, next time I want to compete, I'm going to be doing Worlds. That's like the main show I will be prepping for. Obviously, I'll have some warm-up shows leading up to that. But yeah, big goals, 2020, and I take longer off seasons. I feel like off season should be that length, like 2 to 3 years. Like, especially if you're a natural athlete, especially if you want to make improvements in your physique, especially if you want to keep your hormones in a good place long term.
So important.
It's so important to have these longer off seasons to make these improvements, right? Moreover, most people aren't competitive athletes with timetables, right? So for those of you listening, you don't need to be training like I'm training. You don't need to be training like David is training. You have your own goals that need to be individualized. The approach needs to be individualized. That's the most important thing. So like, 100%. If you're not a competitive athlete with timetables, you don't need to be training like 5 days a week, hitting each muscle group 2 to 3 times a week. Like, you could maybe have something a little bit more simpler that will allow you to progress more consistently over time, rather than, okay, I'm going to give this my all, these 8 weeks to 16 weeks, and then what? What are you going to do? Are you going to fall off? Are you going to keep going? Like, it's important to make that distinction.
Well, and I think what that is everybody needs to come up with their own priority list, right? And you need to be willing to follow that priority list. Be honest with yourself. If your priority, if the gym is 3 or 4 steps down on your priority list, that's okay. But you can't complain when you're not getting the results that you think you want, right?
Absolutely.
Some people work multiple jobs. Some people have a family. The competing is not in their radar. So if the gym keeps knocking down on that list, that's totally fine. Nobody says everybody that has to go to the gym has to be training to compete, right? There's hundreds of other reasons why you go to the gym other than just trying to compete. But you have to have that priority list in check, and you have to be willing to stick to it. And then if you're not getting the results you want, you can see why.
Right. I also think it's important to understand that, the gym and training and being aware of your nutrition is something that's supposed to improve your quality of living.
Oh, yeah, I love that.
Not
Good
hinder
point.
it. And I think that's just important to understand. And a lot of people can get so hyper-focused about these body composition related goals or making improvements in their physique to the point to where they're just so neurotic about every single variable that it takes away from being a good husband, being a great teacher, being a good father. If you, this is based off what I've seen, based off the people I've seen over the years. If I look at like a lot of the great natural bodybuilders who I believe are really great natural bodybuilders, bodybuilding isn't even their first priority. It's their family.
Really not.
It's their family. It's being a teacher, being a coach, and then that comes a little bit later down the line. So understanding how to integrate this as part of your lifestyle is important, and it's a skill, and it's something you're not going to be perfect with right off the bat, but it's something you can improve on or with over time.
Yeah. And here's a little secret to everybody that just listened to that. The more on point the other parts of your life are, the better your bodybuilding is going to be. If your home life, if your relationship is screwed up, if your relationship with your kids is screwed up, if your job is, not going well, stressed out, you're not going to carry that over into any success into bodybuilding or any of your physique goals. So you have to, there's this pool that we have inside of us. It's a stress pool. And it's not just like you got the stress for the gym, you got the stress for your family, you got the stress for your job. It's one big pool, and everything goes in that. So if something is a little, if something is demanding and taking over and filling that pool up more, it's going to spill over into every other aspect of your life. So having that balance, I hate to say the word balance because honestly, I'm not a huge believer in the balance thing. If you're trying to do something great, if you're trying to do something great, there's always going to be an aspect I feel that is going to be lacking for a little bit. But that goes along with that priority list that I talked about earlier, that if say you're prepping for 16 weeks and this is your goal, right? Well, this is going to move up to the top priority list. There are going to be things that naturally come back down, but you have to know that when you're done with that, okay, that's done. This other stuff has to be more of a priority again in order to make up for it. But man, this has been great. I don't want to take up any more time. I want you to go rest. I know you've had a big overreaching week, but thank you for coming on. We started this discussion talking about the COVID-19 and some examples we could with nutrition and training to help clients and everything like that. And then this second part's actually been my favorite part of it, and the whole reason I really wanted to have you on here, because you are someone, and I'm so mad that the Arnold got canceled because we had plans to meet up, and we were going to try to get some training in, but it will happen soon. Luckily that a lot of your friends are in this Tampa area too. So
I need to come out to Tampa again.
You do, man. I got a room for you here. We got a new house and I got some space for you, but just learning a little bit more about things that I didn't even know about you has been helpful, and how that has led you to this position. I'm going to link all your stuff below, but if there's anything that you want to end to tell anybody or promote, go for it right now, man.
Sure. So this is unrelated to promotions or anything. A lot of people get into this just because they want to improve like their life and their quality of living. And, a lot of people tend to compete because they want that trophy, or they want the accolades or that respect. And in both scenarios, you're just working towards your best self, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you really make the distinction that I need to focus on what's happening internally, I need to focus on my happiness, I need to focus on being a better person, like in focusing on those things, you becoming your best self will happen naturally, right? Like respecting yourself enough to be honest with yourself about your nutrition or about your training. And total side note, but yeah, guys, thank you all for tuning in. Thanks, David, for having me on. Thanks for all the kind words. And we all have the power to accomplish whatever we want in life. It just takes a little willpower, determination, and strategy to make it happen.
And, you learn more through the journey than you do at the destination. So, just building off of what you just said, use bodybuilding as a way to better yourself in many, many more aspects than just your physical self.
Absolutely.
So, all right, man. Well, we'll catch up again soon. I really appreciate your time. Like I said, guys, everything of his is going to be in the description box below. He has a great podcast. Go check that out. You've had some amazing guests on it so far. So I'm only sure that's going to continue to grow. And we'll be in touch again soon, man. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
All right, bro. See ya.